Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital spoilers. Lulu awakens with memory loss, believes she's still married to Dante. General Hospital, GH, spoilers suggest that fans need to brace themselves for Lulu Spencer, Alexa Havens, to awaken very soon. After all, news recently hit that All My Children's, AMC, Alexa Havens, has been recast to play the character. There's no official air date on her return yet, but the show could provide a swerve and have her return as early as the week of September 16 to 20. As GH viewers know, Lulu's been in a coma since 2020. The explosion at the floating rib caused the mother of two to sustain massive injuries, and poor Lulu has been in a deep sleep since. General Hospital fans may also recall that Lulu was on the cusp of telling Dante Falconeri, Dominic Zamprogna, her true feelings about him before she exited storylines. After all, the couple had been estranged since about 2018, and even when Dante returned, he struggled with PTSD. A reunion simply wasn't in the cards, until now. Dante and Lulu had been a top super couple on the soap before the cop and WSB agent exited the canvas. Fans were rooting for their reunion when he returned to Port Charles in 2020. However, this never came to be. All arrows are pointing toward that happening once Lulu wakes up, especially because Sam McCall, Kelly Monaco, is set to exit soon. And there are hints that Lulu will be more like the older version of herself when Julie Berman was in the role. There has been talk of Lulu's history during Berman's run as the character, and even Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, mentioned she missed how her cousin used to be. Tracy Quartermain, Jane Elliott, lashed out at Dante during a recent scene at the hospital, telling Dante how he railroaded the spark Lulu used to have when he broke her heart back in 2018. Could this mean that Lulu will wake up with short-term memory loss? She likely won't remember the things leading up to the floating rib accident and provide the OG Lulu-esque personality that fans remember when Berman was in the role. Lulu and Dante got hitched in 2011, so Lulu may remember everything up until Dante left Port Charles. Depending on when Sam exits, and she is set to be killed off, Dante may find himself at a crossroads between staying with his current love and supporting the delusion of his ex-wife/baby mama, who he still loves and cares for. GH spoilers suggest that Dante will be on an emotional roller coaster this fall, navigating his feelings of happiness that Lulu is awake, but also mourning the loss of his current love, Sam McCall. The sterile hum of machines filled the room as Dante Falconeri sat beside the hospital bed, his eyes heavy with exhaustion and hope. For months, he had lived in a limbo of waiting, hoping, praying for the day Lulu Spencer would awaken from her deep coma. Now that day had arrived, but it wasn't the joyous reunion he had imagined. Lulu's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, and then slowly locked onto Dante. A small smile tugged at her lips, but it wasn't the kind of smile that said she remembered everything. It was warm, nostalgic, and painfully familiar. Dante's heart skipped a beat as he leaned forward, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. "Hey," he whispered softly. "You're awake." Lulu blinked several times, her gaze narrowing as she tried to focus. She reached up weakly to touch his face, her fingers trailing across his cheek, as if she were still trying to determine if he was real. Then she spoke, her voice hoarse from disuse, but filled with affection. "Dante," she breathed, a sense of relief flooding her features. "I knew you'd come back for me." Dante swallowed hard, his throat tightening with emotion. He hadn't been married to Lulu in years, but the way she looked at him now, it was as if none of that mattered. He smiled gently, unsure of what to say next. "Lulu, it's me. I'm here." She struggled to sit up, confusion clouding her face as she glanced around the hospital room. What happened? How long have I been here? She asked, panic creeping into her voice. Dante's heart sank. He had been dreading this moment, the moment he would have to explain everything. How she had been in a coma for over a year. How the world had moved on without her, and worst of all, how they were no longer married. Lulu. Dante began carefully, his voice soft yet weighted with the truth. You were in an accident. You've been asleep for a while. She frowned, her hand instinctively reaching for his. How long? A little over a year, he admitted quietly. You were in a coma. Lulu's eyes widened in disbelief, her grip on his hand tightening. A year? Oh my God, she whispered, her voice shaking. She looked down at their intertwined hands, then back up at Dante with a fragile smile. But you're here. That's all that matters, right? Dante's breath hitched. He couldn't bring himself to pull away from her, not yet. Not when she was so fragile and vulnerable. He could see the hope in her eyes, the belief that they were still together, still in love. And for a brief moment, he wanted to pretend it was true. To pretend that the years of heartache, separation, and new lies had never happened. But the reality loomed over them like a dark cloud. He had moved on. He had fallen for Sam McCall, and though their relationship was complicated, he cared deeply for her. And Lulu, she had been in a deep coma, her life frozen in time, unaware of how everything had changed. I need to tell you something, Lulu, Dante said, his voice wavering. Things aren't exactly how you remember them. Lulu tilted her head in confusion, the lines on her forehead deepening as she tried to understand. What do you mean? She asked, her voice a fragile whisper. Dante took a deep breath, preparing to break her heart. We're not together anymore. We got divorced. The words hung in the air like a weight, and Lulu's face crumpled as if the very foundation of her world had just crumbled beneath her. She shook her head in disbelief, her eyes filling with tears. No, that can't be true. We love each other, Dante. We've always loved each other. Dante's heart ached at the sight of her anguish. He wanted to reach out and hold her, to tell her that it was all a mistake, that they could go back to how things used to be. But he knew that wasn't possible. Too much had changed. He had changed, and so had their lives. I never stopped caring about you, Dante said, his voice thick with emotion. But things happened, Lulu. I had to make decisions, for Rocco, for myself. We both did. Lulu's tears spilled over, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. But I don't remember any of that. I don't remember us falling apart. I remember loving you. I remember our life together, our family. How could we end up here? Dante squeezed her hand gently, his heart breaking for her. It wasn't your fault, he assured her. You got hurt. And I. He hesitated, unsure how much to say. I wasn't the same after everything that happened with you. It changed me. Lulu wiped at her tears with her free hand, her mind racing to catch up with the present. So, we're not married anymore. Dante shook his head slowly. No, we're not. The room fell into a heavy silence, only the steady beeping of the heart monitor filling the void. Lulu stared down at her hands, her expression one of utter disbelief. It was as if she had awakened in a nightmare, and nothing made sense. But I still love you, she said, her voice cracking. I still feel it, Dante. Don't you? Dante looked away, guilt washing over him like a tidal wave. He did love her in some way. She was the mother of his child, his first true love. But life had moved forward, and he had tried to find happiness with someone else. I'll always care about you, Lulu, he said softly. But things are different now. I'm with someone else. Lulu's face fell, her eyes widening in shock. Someone else, she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Dante nodded, the weight of his confession nearly unbearable. Sam McCall. We've been seeing each other. Lulu let out a small pained laugh, as if the revelation was too much to process. Sam? I don't know what to say. Dad reached out to touch her arm, his eyes pleading with her to understand. I never wanted to hurt you, Lulu. I didn't know how long you'd be gone. I had to move on, for Rocco's sake, for mine. Lulu nodded, though her expression was far from accepting. I guess I need time to catch up, she said, her voice hollow. Everything's changed. As Dante watched her, his heart heavy with regret, he realized that this was only the beginning. Lulu's memory loss was just the start of a painful journey back to reality, and he wasn't sure if either of them was ready for what lay ahead.